literally started off WrestleMania 41 as big as you could potentially start it off. Now, I will say this. In previous years, Brock Lesnar, who I love dearly, as everyone knows, he is the GOAT for he's the original guy who would hold a championship belt and start the pay-per-view off with the title match, the championship match. This was unheard of. It never happened at WrestleMania before him. And so now it's become like a trend, and it's a good way to start off the show, because the show is 2 nights long now. It at one point was only one night, and it was condensed of like 4 hours long and whatnot, and it was just too much. Now,
it was too much. It was way too much.
Now they can tell the stories with ease, and they can start it off on a just like flip of a switch and really go for it. And that's exactly what they did. The opening match was between Gunther, the heavyweight champion of the world, versus Jey Uso for the championship. And it was a back and forth, brutal slobber knocker, as JR would say. Gunther just being one of the best technical wrestlers, old school style wrestler that is in the game currently, man. A few years ago, we got to see him in a triple threat with Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, and it was a meaty men slap fest, right? And that was the point where I kind of fell in love with Gunther and his character. Over the years, he became the longest reigning 666 days, little demonic Intercontinental champion. But his reign as a heavyweight world champion, he's no slouch in that department, and he's definitely one who carried the belt very well. What's interesting about this match, though, is what he did leading up to this match, and he brutalized Jimmy Uso weeks before.
Right.
Gunther's storytelling is just on a different level because he is a practitioner of sports entertainment. He a practitioner of wrestling, right? So watching Jey Uso do what Jey Uso did and inevitably use the sleeper hold, which Gunther had put so many people to sleep, using his own, watching Jey use Gunther's own move on him was just the perfect way to close out and become the new heavyweight champion of the world.
Right. And I think the big thing was for me too, is watching the ending of that match. A lot of people were skepticizing it and like talking down upon it when you look at it after night one, because of the fact they said, oh, Gunther kind of tapped out way too fast. Like the way he had shown his storytelling throughout everything he did in the past couple of years, like he was that tough, rugged guy. He wasn't going to tap. I feel like, to me, it ended the right way. I do kind of agree with some people that I feel like it should have been fought off a little bit longer at the end of it.
Yes.
My opinion, I feel like it was just too quick. Like, as soon as Jey gets it in and wraps it up, it was like, okay, we're done.
But
you know what I mean?
But I think that shows that Gunther has weaknesses, and that he's this tough shell, but he's like an onion, dude. We haven't seen every layer that is Gunther. And
right.
Sometimes it is interesting and it makes it more relatable when the most evil guy, the bad guy, has the silliest flaw, right? And so I think it's funny because he would put all these people out, and the whole thing was, I believe, that Jey Uso, he never tapped or something. They had a match previous to this, and I believe that the whole idea was that Jey Uso never tapped, and so Gunther tapping, especially tapping fast, plays into that narrative, like that Gunther is not, or Gunther is human, right? That Gunther does have weaknesses, and he does have chinks in his armor, kind of a thing. Jey Uso was able to bring him down to kind of a reality level. I would say some people thought for sure that Gunther was going to be one of the longest reigning champions just because of the way he carries himself and whatnot. And I think that's something that a lot of people who hold championships don't have, that mystique, right? Gunther has that mystique. And so going into this match and then after the match even, the question is what's next for Gunther, because he's done it all. He's been the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. He's, he had a very long reign with the World Heavyweight Champion. Yeah. However, he does have some chinks in his armor. And the thing is, he goes out as a heel. So, Jey Uso being the good guy and winning and having and being so over with the fans, man. He is so popular.
100%.
Yeah. It is one of the coolest things to watch because it reminds me so much of the Yes movement in like 2010 with Daniel Bryan. Yep. But way cooler. Like
I miss Daniel Bryan. I do.
I never liked
really?
that. I hated that dude. I didn't at that point in wrestling. That's the PG era to me. I hated that stuff.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. But I mean, yeah.
But Jey Uso, I'll tell you right now, man, it makes it so much cooler, dude. He rocks those arenas, and it's just.
I think for him, if they wouldn't have came up with that concept of doing the whole yeet movement thing and everything else, I don't think you have that same.
No, you don't. Like, the trajectory, right? No. But you got to remember. You got to remember this though, man. Like he came up as Roman Reigns' right-hand man. And so there was a point where Jimmy got hurt years ago and he had a feud with Roman that lasted pretty much through the entire bloodline off and on. But it gave Jay a lot of time to figure out who he was as a single star. And so that is really why I believe Jay broke out as a single star, was because Jimmy got hurt. So Jay had to do what was best for Jay. And then he was also under the learning tree of Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns. So he molded himself.
Well, and the way they mold it too, to help him with the bloodline, the secondary part of the bloodline story.
Yeah.
With all this, like, just his trajectory just went flying.
Oh, exactly.
From there on. And then, but the yeet movement.
Yeah.
Bro, you got me over here every time it happened, and just sitting me and Grayson just going like,
yeah, dude.
I'm like,
what's funny about these guys, these Fatus, is they're all Bay Area guys, and it's so weird. There's this thing called the hyphy movement, and you can see a little bit.
Yeah, that's been around since we were like,
right, but it's very California Bay Area driven.
Oh yeah,
and you see it in these guys like Jacob Fatu. He does yada da mean, he does that whole thing, and so it's like, bro, that's Bay Area. And what's funny is Jay, I believe he's San Francisco native, so it's a really cool thing. I will truly say that I root for him every time he goes out there. I wish there was a little more range, obviously, in their move set. Their move set is very, I mean, they all do the spear at this point. It's like, God, dude, and they have some cool little aspects, but
I think the cool thing about that though too is like there's some cons and some pros to it.
True.
Cool thing about that is like it literally, they're keeping up with the concept from the early 80s Samoans all the way through.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I like seeing like the little nitpicks here and there of different moves that have gone throughout the generations of the Samoan era and that bloodline. And but there are some cons to it too. Like you said, I would love to see more range in their movement and doing different stuff.
There's just so many of them. I mean, there are so many of them that they all kind of feed off each other movement wise. And so they're like last year, we weren't talking about Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso. They had their match and it was just a super kick fest. That was one of the most boring matches of all time. And it wasn't because of the two people that was in the ring. It was just like 5 minutes in, they had run out of moves. Like it was just like, what are we doing?
So when I think super kick though, man, I think Shawn Michaels. That's what it kills me. It's like super kick to me was always the Shawn Michaels thing. And then all of a sudden I start seeing the Usos do it. I start seeing, all these guys start doing it. I'm like, it's not like something that came from like the Samoan bloodline. It was always a Shawn Michaels thing.
And that's the problem, man, is a lot of the moves that were used in our generation, they have become recycled them. But the thing is they've lost a lot of their power and meaning. They become, instead of like special signature moves, they become like just a go-to move. And Shawn Michaels used to tune up the band, right? That was the whole thing. He'd sit in the corner.
Chin music,
baby. And it was a beautiful thing. So when Jay does it or Jimmy does it, it's more of just a move set, which is fine. But when you, like I said, in that match, it didn't go very well. And sometimes,
oh my gosh, it was like 30 of them.
But you know what I will say about Gunther and Jay is that Gunther was able to mask that, right? I never felt at any point in time during this match between Jay and Gunther that Jay was overdoing, those moves or overselling a certain move. So
that speaks to Gunther as a
100%. Yeah. So great World Heavyweight Championship match. Great way to start off WrestleMania, and it could only go up or down from there, right? To follow that was the only, before we get into this, I'll include this, I guess. Following that is the World Tag Team Championship match. Now, this is out of the 2 tag team championships that we have, only one was shown on WrestleMania. Why that is, I'm not sure. I will say that it is disappointing time and time again to see these PLE events, the premium live events, and to see tag team champions not being so favored. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe there's a demographic of people who just turn off the TV when they see a tag team match, but it seems to be that most PLEs are all singles matches or for singles titles. They're not typically tag team championship matches. So we got one this year, but I would have liked to see both of them on the WrestleMania card, considering we had 2 nights and we did not get that. With that being said, it was the World Tag Team Championship match between the War Raiders versus the New Day. Now, the New Day has turned a new leaf and they've become a heel. They've got new walkout music. They've turned their back against their old partner Big E, or I guess in their eyes, Big E turned his back against them, kind of a thing, because he's no longer wrestling. He's retired. And the War Raiders put on a pretty good showing with the New Day. The New Day ended up playing a little dirty and getting the win. And I believe they are they hold the record for the most tag team championships in history now. They are the GOATs.
I think I heard him say something about that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right.
They're not.
I don't know, man. That match wasn't super like. I like the whole them like becoming heel thing and everything, but at the same time, I'm like, that match wasn't anything special to me.
No,
it was like when you think tag team matches for WrestleMania, and this is just me going back again to our age. I think tag team matches like the Dudley Boys and the Hardy Boys, and you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so,
yeah, you're right. Those tag teams were a different breed, and they had character. Yeah. The New Day is no longer the New Day. They've been around for They've been around for a decade, and even though it may be a New Day and they're the bad guys and whatnot, they're not interesting. I don't care to, I'm not going to go buy their T-shirt. I'm definitely now not going to go buy their T-shirt. Maybe when they, were selling pancakes and that kind of stuff.
I was really only a fan of them when it first started with those 3. And the biggest reason why I became a fan of them is because of Big E, just because he played at the University of Iowa. I'm an Iowa native. It's my favorite freaking college team. So that was the only reason I really got into it. I'm like, oh, Big E, and then he'd come back. I'm like,
And now he's gone. And now he's gone. Yeah. So, Yeah, they did their thing. They got booed. I wouldn't say that they have heat on them. I would say that just nobody cares. But
Right.
it was on the card. Maybe that's why the tag team championship matches are really startling, because if that's the best of the best, I can see why, the other one didn't make it on to either night.
I would like to see Kofi Kingston go solo again.
I'd like to see him retire.
Really? I mean,
I'm not interested in Kofi Kingston, dude. Like he's been around forever. I don't need to see him as a Jamaican, bobsledder.
That's like Carlito. That's like fucking Carlito coming back.
Yeah, you know what's so funny about Carlito coming back?
I didn't know when Carlito came back though. I was kind of like, oh man,
yes. Yeah, for 5 minutes, and then you recognize it's Carlito, and you're like, dude, choose an apple, and it sits in the back of the Judgment Day the entire time, and he's not done anything. But he does do house shows, and it is pretty interesting. One of the last house shows I went to, he was there and he spit an apple in somebody's face. I can't remember the point, but it was funny. So yeah, New Day wins. Nobody cares. I'm sure they'll drop the title in a few months, and somebody else new will get their hands on it. Following that, we had a very bad blood match that had it's been going on for quite some time. The bad blood started at least 6 months ago, if not longer, where Jade Cargill was injured. She was tag team champions with Bianca Belair, and somebody like hit her with a car, and they found her on top. Yeah, and so she was injured, and then she came back at Elimination Chamber when Naomi was in the match, and she beat the living crap out of Naomi. And so there's this story because they found out that Naomi's the one that ended up
with the car
injuring Jade. Yeah. So Jade and her,
it was a decent match.
I would say it was more of a squash match, which is where Jade beat the living shit out of Naomi, in my opinion. Yeah. And Jade looked really strong. She looked.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy. Oh, yeah. And she came out. I think she was in it was very similar to like Wonder Woman meets the Flash kind of gear. But Jade Cargill can't do any wrong in my book, man. She's awesome. So
yeah. Well, and then we had. Following that, we had the United States Championship match.
Yes.
Between Jacob Fatu and LA Knight, which was, in my opinion, one of the best matches of the night.
Yeah.
It really was. It was one of my favorite matches of the night. And it was crazy. I mean, from what I read online and saw, a lot of people thought that LA Knight was going to continue that reign as United States champion. What I was reading on a lot of the comments and stuff like that. So to see how it ended, I was like, oh, so Jacob Fatu is being put over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, so.
I mean, if he's gonna drop it to anybody, he's dropping it to Jacob. And the thing is that LA Knight, this is his second run with the United States champion. He had a moment where he had lost it, and he just recovered it like a few months ago. And it was kind of like, what are we doing here? Like, he had lost it to Shinsuke Nakamura. He dropped it in almost like a squash match to Shinsuke. And then Shinsuke did nothing with it. And we were like, okay, this is stupid. And then LA beat Shinsuke again and to recover the United States Championship. So to see that, people thinking that he was going to go on a run and beat Jacob at WrestleMania totally makes sense. But Jacob is in a point right now where he needs to be protected because his character is... He's the werewolf. He's a savage, man. And he is the big dog on campus. And
he is one strong. I don't care what anybody says. That is one strong motherfucker.
He's a big boy, too.
Like, some of the shit he does for how big he is.
Yeah, it's incredible. Wild, dude. And so the thing is I've heard stories prior to him starting in the WWE when he was in the Indies that Triple H was worried, and the rest of the writing team in WWE was worried that he was going to overshadow Solo Sikoa because Solo was starting his beef with Roman at the time, and this is before they brought on Jacob, but they had signed Jacob, that they were worried that Jacob was going to overshadow Solo, and Solo needed to look like the big bad, and so that's why they.
Well, there was some times in that storyline where he really was overshadowing.
Well, guess
him.
what?
You could tell.
Yeah.
But then they would bring it back so that it wouldn't be.
Guess who wasn't on WrestleMania? Solo Sikoa.
Yep.
I mean, I think the thing is the inevitable showed is that Jacob's a better performer. He's in ring and on the microphone, right? And he's scary in that regard because he makes other people look stupid. So, LA Knight, losing to Jacob was the right call because LA Knight will have more runs. LA Knight is also he's also in his 40s, which typically they say like if you're in your 40s and you haven't won the title, it's pretty rare that you're going to actually win the big championship. But LA Knight is a company man. He's doing the company things. He's doing it the right way. And I think his future is going to be really, really good. People love LA Knight as it is. And for Jacob will be a world champion within the next 2 to 3 years, guaranteed. So,
100%.
Congrats to Jacob for winning the United States Championship. He'll do some good with it. Anybody's better with that belt than Austin Theory. Austin Theory holds the record. He beat John Cena at WrestleMania a few years ago. It was just fucking hard to watch, dude. Anyway, moving on to something that was hard to watch was El Grande Americano versus Rey Fenix. Little backstory on this. It was supposed to be Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio gets injured the night before WrestleMania on SmackDown. And luckily, they've got a new luchador in Rey Fenix. They're doing a massive deal with the lucha underground scene, which I believe is called Triple A. And they just either bought them out. I'm pretty sure they just bought them out. But with that being said, you have Chad Gable, who is playing the role of El Grande Americano. And you know what? He's fucking amazing. He's so much better than Chad Gable. I love it. I've become a fan of El Grande Americano. It is a train wreck. The match.
It is a fucking train wreck.
Realistically,
the steel plate and the fucking mask
it's
thing
stupid.
And everything else. I'm like,
it's so bad.
Me being from like being half Mexican, half Italian. Me growing up in a Mexican household, like when I first got into wrestling as a kid, and my uncles on him, like it was all about the luchadors, man. Because I still am a huge Rey Mysterio fan.
Yes,
I was all about the luchadors, and it was always Eddie Guerrero, Chavo Guerrero,
Nacho Libre,
like all Well, Nacho Libre is the goat of all goats,
right? He's the best. He's the best luchador, dude.
But so to see fucking Chad Gable fucking dressing up, as an American,
it's such a train wreck,
luchador,
dude.
It's such a train wreck.
That part, it's hard to watch because of it, and then the fact that Chad Gable, aka El Grande Americano, wins.
That pissed me off the fucking most. I was like, let's still play, and then all of a sudden I'm like, God damn it! And don't put him over.
Rey Fenix has been on the WWE roster for like 2 weeks, literally just signed with them, and he is the Lucha brother to oh my God, what's his name? He's the Lucha brother to Penta. Which was on night 2. And they used to be a tag team, and I hope that they go back to being a tag team because the Lucha Bros or Brothers or whatever they were called, I'd love for them to have tag team titles. But El Grande Americano winning just shows the state of the WWE not caring about luchadors, dude. It's so fucked up.
It's so messed up. I'm just like, God damn it, dude. I'm like, because Rey Fenix I looked at some of his shit from before WWE. He's a stud.
Yeah, he's elite. He's
elite.
Yeah. So it
was a good match though. It was a pretty decent
I can't get past the steel plate thing, dude. That's every match he does.
It's like the second week in a row that he's done it. Or what is it? Like third week in a row that he's done it or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like the whole Logan Paul with the fucking brass knuckles
thing
at this point.
Well, the thing with that though is like that's more believable, dude. It's way more
Than
believable.
putting a steel plate in and him
Yeah,
headbutting somebody. Like,
yeah.
it's gonna go both ways when you
Yeah,
headbutt. It's not gonna like, come
exactly,
on.
dude. I don't
I
know.
would feel like you're gonna do more damage to yourself with that fucking thing in the
I just
mask.
it
But I
was
mean,
to me it was a fucking train wreck. I was laughing the entire time, but that's what wrestling sometimes needs to be, right? So I was okay with it. It was not my favorite match. I would say it was probably the worst match of all of WrestleMania.
right.
So that
I apologize to our listeners too if you're hearing a bunch of raindrops. There is a massive storm that just moved through on us while we're talking, and I'm trying to mute my mic when Grind's talking so you don't hear. But
we're getting through
can't
it.
always be fucking
No,
perfect. But
we're getting through it. Following,
next up,
yeah,
yeah,
following that was actually a good one. It was the WWE Women's Championship match. Now, this got really
yeah,
interesting really quick because I will sit there with my girl and we will pick apart what they're wearing, especially the women's matches. I'm not sure why. I've always been that guy though that like if there's if they wear something stupid, it doesn't matter if it's a guy or a girl.
I tear it apart.
I
I'm the
tear it
same
apart,
way.
dude. It's
Yeah,
terrible. And so, Charlotte Flair had these leggings, and I about a few years ago, I never noticed it until a few years ago, but they're leggings that look like the skin color, and I guess they wear them to like hold everything together. But if you go and watch it, her legs are like fucking orange. And
yep,
from just like at a glance, it looks very normal. But if you really stare, it's a bad look, right? Tiffany
right.
Stratton, she wore fishnets, which looked good. But these blondes, man, they have the crazy extensions, and all I can think about the entire time. My girl ruined it for me because she goes, oh, she got crazy extensions, and I'm like, well, I wonder what her hair looks like without it. And it's like, oh geez, there's not much hair there, right? So
Right.
these girls are, they put on a show literally in physic, like the makeup and everything else, whatever, cool. I'm not into it. That I came for wrestling, dude, and so but I want the girls to look good too. I want them to look like they did back in the day. And it's not the case, right? So
No.
Tiffany Stratton though, she's I can see why people think she's like eye candy and she's super pretty and whatnot. It's all the makeup, it's all the hair extensions, it's all the
Yeah.
right. So you get past all that, you watch the match. The match is actually good. They're both very
Yeah.
skilled. Tiffany ends up, retaining her belt, defeating Charlotte Flair. But at the very end of the match, my girl goes, "What happened to her mouth?" And I'm like, "Huh?" And I look, and she's like, "I think she had fake teeth in, so you couldn't see her fucked up teeth." And I'm like, "No." And so I start looking, and we're like pausing, and I'm like, "Dude, her fucking teeth are fucked up. Like, what happened to her teeth?" And she's like, "Yeah, I think she wears like prosthetic teeth to cover her fake shitty
Oh,
teeth."
I'm gonna have to rewatch this shit now because I didn't even notice that.
Dude, she looks like a witch. It's terrible. Well, come to find out, afterwards I read an article or two, and she chipped like her teeth. Her real teeth. It is her real teeth, but she chipped her real teeth, and she looked bad. It was
Oh man.
so she got beat up, dude, and she ended up with like a bruise on her forehead and whatnot. It was a pretty physical match. I think there was a little bit of bad blood. Some receipts were thrown definitely in there. And then for her to, get teeth actually chipped and knocked out of her head, that says a lot.
Yeah.
Charlotte Flair did not deserve to win that title. There was no reason for her to win that title.
No.
I guess it's a good thing that she's around to pass the torch, and that's exactly what
It's
that
like,
was.
yeah, because there was no longevity for her to hold
No.
that title throughout
No.
this. There's no, yeah.
She's a part-timer.
It was a good match though. It
Yeah.
was a great match. I mean,
It was.
for being almost 20 minutes, they kept the pace going
Yeah.
almost the entire time.
That's the thing.
know what I mean?
When you don't think about the pace, when you don't have to think about the pace, it's headed in the right direction, right?
Right.
So it was definitely done really well. But that was the funniest part, was the ending. It had us like questioning everything. So I had to go to social media immediately and find out what was happening. And then by the end of the night, she had like fixed her teeth, like she had gone to
got her, yeah.
like they had like an in-house dentist, dude, which is crazy. So
well,
yeah,
I'm sure they need it.
Yeah, dude. Well,
that's what most people don't know is like it could take the one wrong move and you just lose a whole mouthful.
Well, you gotta think, man. So the WWE and the UFC have so much money now that obviously doctors aren't even a thing. Like they're there, they're on site, they're they cater to these people, because these people are worth millions. So
Yep.
And then to the main event, man. We had the big main event of night one, the triple threat main event.
It was fucking great.
Oh my God, dude.
It was fucking great.
We had Seth.
The way they made that storyline happen throughout that whole night of that match. We had
Seth Rollins come out in a trash bag, and and then the lights went and then the lights went black. And he was white Jesus, dude.
Jesus.
He literally had a crown on his glasses made out of barbed wire.
I was dying.
Yeah,
dude. I'm like, this is the most outrageous fucking entrance ever.
It was, dude. And then followed that was it was Rollins versus Punk versus Roman Reigns. Reigns walked out by himself, and Punk had the
Paul Heyman.
No, he had the wise man, but he also had the band. Oh man, I forget their name, but they sing the song "Cult of Personality" in living color, which I thought was great. That's the second time they've done that at a WrestleMania, so that was really cool. I enjoyed it. I love when they do live performances like that, and that song's a pretty cool song from the 90s. I believe it's from the early 90s. Paul Heyman walks out with Punk. Match starts out a little slow. There's some teaming up between Seth and Roman towards Punk. Nobody really likes Punk, because he's the bad guy, he's the outsider, even though Roman and Seth have their own issues. And then basically the big moment for me was when Roman decided he was like, screw you to Seth Rollins, and ends up putting both Punk and Seth Rollins through those tables.
Jesus,
dude, yeah. I was like, that downforce, man, of those power bombs. Holy shit, dude. That was a big moment before the big moment, right? And so I do this thing with pro wrestling where I look at their finishers. I always go, did this guy do his finisher yet? Well, no, he didn't. So the finisher's coming at some point, right? And you can kind of see where the match is going based around that. Well, they had all done their finishers, and I was like, it's a matter of shenanigans. Like, what?
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck is gonna happen?
Leading it up to that shit was the greatest, in my opinion. The way they did it.
Oh my God!
All the time frame of when it happened. So if a lot of you have never seen this back in the past, there was the whole flip of where Seth Rollins hits Roman across the back with a chair, right?
Yes.
And they set it up so that Roman would be in position to get his revenge, right? And Paul Heyman sells this fucking thing. Sells it perfectly. My tribal chief, it's here. Remember, it's your turn. He's right there. And I'm like, there's no fucking way they're doing this, right?
No, dude.
Like, there's no way they're doing this.
Yeah.
And then he goes to go do it. And the fucking shit that happened next.
Yeah, dude.
I was like,
Paul Heyman.
I saw it coming, but I didn't see it coming.
What's crazy is one of our listeners literally wrote us and told us what they had believed would happen, and it was happening. And this is like a week before WrestleMania, and I was like, no way, that would be crazy, right? And so as it's happening, I'm like, oh my God, this prediction's actually coming to fruition.
I'm like, where's this motherfucker in the writing room when it's all out?
Crazy, man. And it just goes to show how good of a writer that Paul Heyman can be, right? Like Paul Heyman is such a big part of the writing room, of the creative team. And so to see him create history because what you're talking about is, you know, the Shield. You're talking
Yeah.
that's like 15 years ago, dude. Like the fact that like here, you know, here you're watching this and you're just waiting for that moment and you're like, oh my God, Roman's going to get revenge, dude. It's going to happen. And then he doesn't, you know, and you're like, wait, what's Paul, you know, Paul low blows him and turns.
Paul drops to a knee, the slowest fucking drop
yeah.
I've ever seen. That's how I knew. It was like, I know it was coming because you can see how he's placing his body.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's so old at this point.
I know.
He's so big. It's like the slowness of how he got down.
Yeah, no,
and the way he had to hit and hold his arm up there.
And then as he's holding it up, he's rotating it like this, dude. It was great. It was so perfect, man. It was just what needed to happen. Nobody's mad at it. It honestly, in my eyes, you know, it saves Roman's character and CM Punk's character, protects them.
Yep.
As big of stars as they are, this is one of the things in pro wrestling that is most important, is keeping the integrity of the character, you know, together, even when they lose. And to make that happen was really, really cool, you know. So Seth goes over, Seth wins at WrestleMania, walks out with Paul Heyman, aligning, you know, they align together. And the foreseeable future is going to be dangerous for everyone else because
it'll be interesting to see what they do with the story from there.